Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about the stock market. But on this channel I just try to teach you about personal finance, and I also want to try different side hustles and see what works, what doesn't, and let you know about it. But let's get right into it. So what is the stock market? The stock market is a place where you can buy and sell shares of publicly traded companies. So I could buy a share of McDonald's, and basically you're owning a very, very small percentage of that company. So 0.0000, yeah, just a small percentage. But you can buy several shares, you can buy a bunch of shares of that company, and the price of the shares depends on what investors define the price to be. So if more investors invest in it, the price will go up. If investors sell off, the price will go down. But the number of investors invested in it can kind of define how much the price is worth. So if you have a $1,000 stock, then obviously there's a lot of people invested in it, whereas a very small $1 stock, it's not as big. So yeah, that's the general gist of the stock market. You can buy stocks of a company. You could buy you could invest in an index fund, which is a bunch of stocks put together, and you just invest in the index fund, and it just chooses how much to put in each stock. And you can also invest portional shares of a company. So Tesla's stock is at $1,000, and if you want to invest in Tesla, you don't have to buy one share for $1,000. You can invest as little as $1, depending on which brokerage account you're using, and that dollar will represent the 1,000 based on the percentage gain. So if the Tesla goes up 10%, then that dollar will have risen by 10% as well. So that's how it kind of matches it. But let's talk about the risks of investing in the stock market now. And the first one is the risk of losing money. So it's not always making money. You're not always going to be making money from the stock market. On average, over the long term, the stock market always goes up. So all stocks combined will go up on average, but some stocks will end up plummeting, and the majority will go up over the long run. But in the short term, like a month, your stocks could be down for a long time, 3 months, maybe even a year. But we're talking about 5 years. That's when you really see those gains. So don't focus on the short term. I cannot stress this enough. If you're focusing on the short term, and you're going to be selling, you're going to be stressing, you're not going to invest smart. And understand the difference between trading versus investing. Trading is short term, investing is long term. Investing gets you those results, in my opinion, because there's obviously Google have made money, but it's a lot less riskier. So if you are scared about risk, then invest in the long term. Put your money in your brokerage account, invest in a stock, and don't look at it for 5 years if you can. And you won't have to worry about it, and you'll see that your stock most likely has gone up. So there's a risk of losing money. And then there's also a risk of missing out. So if you end up not investing, then you could be missing out on some crazy gains if you decided not to invest in a company that you were considering. So let's talk about why you should invest though. I've talked about the risks, but if you invest for the long term, you're going to be making more money than if you put your money in a savings account, because savings accounts give you like 1 to 2% return per year, which inflation takes away from. So even if you're making 2% a year, if inflation is at 3% that year, then you're making negative 1% on your money. So you're losing a percentage, a 1% of your money each year. Whereas if you invest in the stock market, which has gone up over time each year, the S&P 500, which is like kind of represents the stock market, but it's just 500 of the biggest US stocks, and that's the index fund. It's all the 500 of the biggest publicly traded stocks, and it's gone up 10% on average each year. So rather than losing a percent each year, just invest in the S&P 500 and you would on average make 10% per year based on what history says. So you have a fear of missing out, and you also have a fear of losing money. So there's two different sides to this, but you shouldn't be scared about losing money if you invest smart. So make sure to do your own research. I'm just informing you, this isn't financial advice, I'm just teaching you guys. So we understand why you should invest in the stock market, because if you put your money under your bed for 100 years, then that money will have lost a lot of value. Whereas if you invested it, it would have gained value. So understand that. All right, now let's talk about compound interest and how you can make a lot of money through compound interest, which is long-term investing, because your money will continue to rise and rise and rise and rise over the long term, because it's compounding off of what you've already put into it. And it's the percentage return is increasing, because if I put in $100 in the stock market, next year it's gonna be worth $110 if 10% return, and then the next year is be $121, because you're getting the percentage return off of the percentage return you had last year, if that makes sense. So let me give you an example. If I invested $100 today, and I invested $100 every month for 30 years, and I invested it in the S&P 500, which has 10% average percentage return, APR, then within 30 years, I would have made $200,000. You wanna know how much you would have made if you put it in a savings account? You wouldn't have made anything. Your money would be worth $40,000. So that's quite the difference. Just consider that when thinking, should I put my money in a savings account? Should I put my money in the stock market? Because you can make a lot of money if you invest smart. So do your own research and consider this advice. And if you want to get started today, then just look up brokerage accounts, look up how do I invest, and you can invest in brokerage accounts like Robinhood, which I'm sure you've seen through ads. You can invest in Webull, Fidelity, Ameritrade. There's a bunch of brokerages. Just consider which ones have what suit you best. So with all that said, thank you for watching this video. Please give me feedback. Please like and subscribe if you like this stuff. I want to grow my channel, so I appreciate you watching.